we're the guys for it with football.
Love it.
We are all on different types of shit, and we are all over the different football storylines, the rule changes, and I wanted to start our Glaunch show. I wanted to launch the Glaunch show with your feelings, Scott, on the new changes in the league this year. Just some of them include the quote unquote dynamic kickoff, which is the new kickoff format taken from the XFL, but it was abandoned by the UFL. It may be for good cause. I don't know. Looks sometimes dicey here in the preseason. We have the new tackling rules to help encourage more player safety and eliminate the hip drop tackle. Apparently, there's private equity minority ownership that's being approved, and the only team to fight against it was the Cincinnati Bengals. So, could have I think a lot of people are afraid it could, lead to something like Saudi Arabia launching, some ownership groups and continuing the sports washing facade that's been going on. So, what are your feelings on all the changes that have come into the league this year? It feels like more than usual.
Yeah, I'm not totally worried about the new tackling rule. Because I would read a bunch of articles and watch a lot of interviews with some people more qualified to talk about the NFL, especially when it comes to tackling. And they were saying they don't see it really being a big issue. I am more interested in the whole new dynamic kickoff. I think that's going to provide a little bit more of a spark, especially to something that can really sway a game within the matter of seconds. I think what's the record for NFL for kickoff returns for touchdowns in a year? It's probably like 4.
It can't be
4 or 5. It can't be much more than that. But
I don't know about Hester.
Oh, I'd have to double check that stat. But either way, I think it's going to provide a lot more opportunities for teams to be able to get some sort of points from a kickoff this year. I'm very interested to see that. And then I'll let you dive more into the private equity as far as the ownership goes, because I'm very interested in the financial aspect of that. But another rule change I'm actually excited to see. I think you're going to start seeing the Guardian helmets pick up a lot more steam as the year goes on. I think you're going to see a couple players out there right now, week 1, wearing them, the Guardian caps. But I think by the time the end of the season rolls around, you're going to see a lot more folks wearing them.
That's actually a big one that I hadn't even thought about. Yeah, and I think it was DeAndre Swift who was the first person that I saw wear the Guardian cap during a game, during one of the preseason games. And it actually looked, when they first announced it, I was like, oh, it's going to look really goofy during the games. And they said that they had done a lot of design stuff to make it look like the helmets, like the rest of the team helmets, and, kind of look a little smoother. And it did. And it's something that you get used to, and, you would get used to watching, and it ultimately wouldn't matter. And it's much better to keep them safe. That's how they're going to do it. And you'll have some people who will break that trend of it being uncool or whatever and getting down with it. Like, I would love to see Tua wearing it. I would feel a lot better about Tua even a year removed from like he had a fully healthy season last year, but I'm still scared for the dude, like 2 years after what happened with him and that concussion.
Oh, absolutely. And especially the big guys up front, like your defensive fronts and your offensive linemen. I'm very interested to see how many more of them start wearing them, because I think that's kind of that position group that doesn't really get talked about a lot when it comes to head injuries, because they're just kind of the seen and not be heard folk.
Yeah.
There's nothing flashy about the guys up front. But yeah, I think, players like Tua or anyone who's like really, because, once you have a concussion, the more susceptible you are to having them more in the future. So I'd be very interested to see if this does take off the way I think it's going to, if the NFL does make some sort of mandate for players who've had multiple concussions throughout their career they have to wear them for their own safety.
I could see that happening. And just like to close the loop on the record, you were right about, like single season record for kick return touchdowns in a season. It's 4 kick return touchdowns. That's just kickoffs on that. I think Devin Hester has the overall with 6, including punts. But dynamic kickoff, I'm going to have to see more of it. I am happy if it leads to more kick returns and more exciting moments. there during special teams. It's always just such a dead period. It feels like something that you could just skip over, or just the worst hell of it is when it's the shitty kickoff and then immediately to commercial.
Yeah.
And so now, like, you were like, you could have left that in the commercial. Like, why even, like, I know we have to show it, but why did we have to show it?
Right. I mean, the only other option that you would have potentially have been doing, and I know they were talking about it, was getting rid of kickoffs completely and just having everyone start on their 20 and just go from there, because that's pretty much where everything was going to get fielded anyways, between the 20 and 25. So I think this is a really great way to keep a really exciting aspect of the game intact, but putting a more safer spin on it.
Yeah. And when it comes to the ownership stuff, I know it's not as interesting to most folk, but I do think that there is a slight tinge of horror to it with the league, and not just horror, but also growth possibilities, because the league is getting bigger every single year. It's growing in like, it's unstoppable and it's wild. Like, even with what happened with Damar Hamlin, even what was happening with Colin Kaepernick before that, Tua and the head injury, like, it doesn't seem to slow anything down with the NFL. Even in the game, they were trying to get the Damar Hamlin game to keep going right after he basically died on field. So, this league is growing. The money is getting bigger and bigger. And so now the ability to buy a team is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, where you have people like Josh Harris. Harris bought the Commanders for $6.1 billion, I think. And it has to be, you have to have 30% of it up front in cash. You got to be able to at least front that up. Mm-hmm. And now with the private equity ownership, so with the private equity, for anybody that's like wondering on that, that can be like a corporate purchase almost. That can be these like different corporate groups. That can be these different investment groups, which a lot of times have, been like different kind of tech companies or whatever, like Vista shit. And then you have different Saudi Arabian partnership groups who come in, and won't dive into all the politics of it tonight, but when it comes down to that, there's a lot of cases of what's called sports washing when it comes to Saudi Arabia and the human rights atrocities that have happened over there, and especially even with like journalism and media, where there was an American journalist beheaded over there for covering and not following the rules of that government. And just all these different human rights violations can then kind of get swept under the rug, under the facade of big sports. That a lot of people realized, if you've got big sports going, people will forget what's happening. That's where Live Golf came. We talked about that in an episode, and we'll pin that up, that episode with Bradley Harrison. But they had that with Live Golf. They have it with Cristiano Ronaldo and trying to get him. They tried to pay a shit ton of money for Leo Messi to get him there and keep up that all of that going. Slowly, they're creeping into the NBA. And, we have UFC fights in Saudi Arabia constantly where, people in that demo can thrive.
Look at the WWE. The WWE has been huge in the Middle East, especially in Saudi Arabia. So it's like, money talks, and people are going to go where, if they can get some more money out of that point, it's just another revenue stream for a lot of these sport franchises.
Yeah.
Especially the price tag for these players, they aren't getting any cheaper.
Right. And this all comes down to, it's also only for minority ownership right now. And that's minority ownership. They're looking at about like 30%, like a 30% stake in a team, which is still a lot of money for how much teams are going to be going now. Like, if the Chicago Bears go up for sale, like it's rumored that they could, when their owner, who is 98, she might be 100 now, when she passes, she might not leave it to the kids, might force it as a sale. The Chicago Bears being a legacy team.
She's 101.
Damn. When that happens, that Bears team, whether they're good or not, because they're such a legacy team, because they are the only NFL team in Chicago, that major of a city, that team will sell for a hell of a lot. I would damn near bet $9-ish billion on that team. I would put an estimate on there around that. The Seattle Seahawks are going to be coming up very soon because it's required in Paul Allen's will that Jody Allen has to sell that team by a certain amount of time. We've creeped up onto that year now so that the proceeds can go to his cancer research foundation and these different scholarships that he was trying to create. So he'll have to sell them and the Portland Trailblazers. The Seahawks are going to sell for a lot. I'm sure that they will sell for more than the Commanders. They'll sell for probably about $7 to $8 billion. And you don't have a lot of people who can just front that cash right up. You have Jeff Bezos, who will get in at some point. He'll get one of those teams that he wants. But outside of that, it's really hard. Byron Allen was trying to buy a team for years and could not get the cash. Or you would have to, or like with a lot of these other guys, you have to get a lot of investors to come in with you and front the money to you, and then you have to pay them back. It's rough. It's hard to do. So now you're going to be getting people like these private equity groups who can come in and maybe support somebody else and bump them up. Or you have teams with legacy ownership where those kids that own these teams, example, Mark Davis with the Raiders, are relatively cash poor when it compares to other owners like Jerry Jones or the Waltons in Denver. Mark Davis could use a private equity stake ownership. Like he was trying to get Tom Brady to get an ownership stake in there just so it would boost profits a little bit. But he could use somebody, or the Cincinnati Bengals once they fronted against it. But when Mike Brown dies, that family will probably need a little bit of help on the side to keep things going and to keep stadiums, these luxury state-of-the-art stadiums being built. Which, by the way, I don't know how you feel about it. I love these state-of-the-art stadiums that are coming in, right? But I feel like this is another boomer take of mine. I just want a nice football stadium. Just a good field. Just a good field, good open field. You know, maybe some slightly crappy bleachers in there, you know, the popcorn hot dog guy walking around and everything. We don't need like a fucking Bojangles over there by corner A3 of the stadium. Like, just give me a good...
You have to go on a wild goose hunt to go try to find some food.
Right. I want shitty pizza stands at every corner that don't cost too much to make, because this is just an open field stadium like Lambeau or something, or the Bears stadium, which they're going to get rid of.
No, I'm all for it. And circling back on the Bears, talk about like you said, like these franchises, there's no such thing as a guarantee on returns of investment. It's always a risk, but it seems to be all but a guarantee when it comes to especially NFL franchises. A couple facts and figures for you. The franchise fee was $100 for the Bears. In 1921, the Stanley Starch Company gave Hallis the team $5,000 and permission to move the team to Chicago if he would agree to keep the Staleys name for a year. The Staleys won the 1921 league championship. A year later, the team was renamed the Chicago Bears. And now they're going to be worth $9 billion.
Dang, they gave him $5,000 too on the side.
They paid you money.
They paid more to keep.
What's the inflation on that? You know what? I mean, what's that? So $100 franchise fee. They gave him $5,000. So what's that? $4,900 left?
Yeah, $4,900 basically. So yeah, I mean, that was the family fortune right there at that time and that age. And I mean, like, there are a lot of people who say like they just wish that their like great grandfather had just cashed out his fucking bonds or something and bought the New York Giants and just kept that going.
According to this, $4,900 in 1921 is worth $86,103.13 today.
That's still pretty good.
That's still a big jump to $9 billion, dude.
Yeah, that's a great
jump.
investment, no matter what. Yeah, that paid off.
That's what we do when we find a time machine. Maybe not you go back to 1921,
no,
but I'll go back to 1921.
They would never sell it to me.
They never sell to you, dude.
Can you imagine? The first black owner in the NFL came in 1921. He left the team in 1921 under mysterious circumstances.
He just said he left. He just said he just wanted to get out of there. Who knows?
I didn't ask any questions. Said
Wasn't
Jim
me.
Bob Cooter.
Said Jerry Jones, 1950.
Continuing on with the launch. So there's plenty of that's news, right? That's gone on, and there's stuff that's tangible that we could talk about. But if this is football, this is the NFL, this is Mina Kimes territory that we're talking about. We have to get into bold predictions. Everybody does bold predictions. And last year I made the mistake of saving the bold predictions for the end of the show. We're not doing that. We're not doing that this time because every other time it's
honey.
It's spoiled throughout the show. These bold predictions. So we're going to do our bold predictions right now. It's Scott and I on it. It's simple. It's easy to keep up with. Luis and Zoo, they'll be doing, Ricks versus Gricks. They're not going to have to worry about keeping up with their bold prediction. They'll throw them in at some other time. Yeah. Zoo actually already had the corner on the Commandalorian. He already has that exclusive, his own little segment that popped up. But Scott, I want to get into the bold predictions right now, and just so
they're bold.
Just so the people know, this can't be a Super Bowl winner prediction. All right? We're not gonna blow our loads right here at the start. We're just gonna now go. He is ready. I'll start with mine, right? And this is something that I've brought up Cam Newton and the 2011 NFL draft a lot, and how I think that kind of tanked. I think that tanked a lot of quarterbacks' careers and ruined a lot of GMs' jobs, to where you get a great rookie star in Cam Newton who plays unlike any rookie quarterback that you're really expecting to play before that. And Cam lights it up. Andy Dalton lights it up. He was a second-round pick that year. Colin Kaepernick lights it up a little later into the season as a second-round pick from that draft. And then the following year, everybody's still in love with the quarterback, this can't-miss thing, and it accelerates. It accelerates, right? Because that's when Andrew Luck comes in, 2012 draft, number 1. RG3 at number 2. Rookie of the Year. And Russell Wilson hits. Nick Foles is in that draft and has some shining moments. Kirk Cousins has some shining moments sitting there behind RG3. Ryan Tannehill was there. Meh. But he played like a rookie quarterback probably should be expected to. And from then on, we had a lot of drafts where quarterbacks are reached on. It's pretty much from not every draft since, but pretty much you can expect quarterback to go number 1 overall every year, and they're going to have excessively high expectations for them. Tom Brady said he thinks it's an absolute shame and a nightmare that so many teams start rookie quarterbacks. He does not believe that rookie quarterbacks should start the first year. I'm not a big proponent of it, and that's coming from somebody who's a fan of a team that's going to be starting one of these rookie quarterbacks in Jaden Daniels. I prefer a quarterback to be able to sit for a year. Patriots just announced that Jacoby Brissett's going to start the season for them. Drake May is going to sit at number 2, even though he had a really impressive preseason. It's probably for the best. They're playing really incredibly hard defenses for the first 4 weeks. Drake May will probably come in there second, somewhere after the second month, and maybe light it up, or maybe he sits for a year and really learns, just like Patrick Mahomes was able to do. And that benefited him a shit ton. My prediction here is Caleb Williams and what Caleb Williams is about to present to the NFL and how he's about to launch. I'm going the other way. He's going to launch another Cam Newton-like renaissance of overreacting and reaching for rookie quarterbacks. That's right. This motherfucker here, Caleb Williams, is going to have one of the best rookie seasons of all time.
He's going to say, hold my purse.
Hold
watch
my
this.
purse. He's going to say, he's going to have watch this on his nails. He's coming for your ass. He's going to break Cam Newton's records. Caleb Williams is going to break all of the different rookie quarterback records. Cam's, RG3s, whoever's got him, he's taking them. And he's going to have a fantastic season. Might not be enough to take the Bears to the playoffs, but I think he will give the Bears a winning season. I think he will. I think he's going into a fantastic space with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze as weapons, Cole Kmet. at tight end, a pretty decently upgraded O-line, and a defense that has some threats on it. Caleb Williams is going to have a fantastic season, and it's going to cause teams to reach and overreact going into the 2025 NFL draft, which will have some quarterback names to it. But I don't think it's going to give them exactly what they're hoping for. We're already coming off of a year that had CJ Stroud really massively overperforming as a rookie quarterback. We're going into this year where Caleb Williams will have a record-breaking season. I think Jaden Daniels is going to perform very well for the most part. I think he will perform well. I think Drake May will come in and have some moments. And Bo Nix, I don't know if it's Bo time this year. He might be the Tannehill of this class. Could very well be. But next year, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to book it right now, and you're going to hate hearing this. And this could be nuked by the time the show is released, because the Colorado Buffaloes are playing as we're speaking. They're starting their game right now. So maybe this will all be nuked. But Shedeur Sanders is going to go number 1 overall next year. I'm throwing that out right now. Shedeur Sanders is going number 1 overall because of the Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels hype. You're going to get Shedeur Sanders at number 1.
Dylan Gabriel's coming out.
Dylan Gabriel will be there. Let's say Quinn Ewers at number 2. Quinn Ewers is going to have a big year, and just coming from Texas, if he gets them into the playoff and has some success there, people have been watching him for a long time. He's a savvy vet of college football. I can see Quinn Ewers. It's just going to be a lot of quarterbacks who I think are mid at best. Shedeur Sanders, Shedeur Sanders has talent, and it's literally in his DNA, but I don't think he's that great. I don't think he's number 1 overall pick great, but we've overvalued the position so much that that's where we're going to be. We're going to end up in one of those years, a humbling year, where Shedeur Sanders is going to be the number 1 overall pick for the New York Giants next year, and it's going to blow up. It's going to blow up in their face. Quinn Ewers. Pause. Now go. Quinn Ewers will be just about the same. Jalen Milroe, if he goes in, just about the same. I don't like it. I don't like what Caleb Williams is about to do. I don't like what Jaden Daniels is about to do. I'm just happy I have him. I'm happy I'm one of the teams that has him.
I like it. That's a pretty bold statement. I'm trying to figure out what direction I want to go in, because we're on the talk of mediocre quarterbacks. I think I'm going to stay on the mediocre quarterback route for a second. Through 50 games, Trevor Lawrence has posted 11,700 yards. He's thrown for 58 touchdowns, 39 picks. So his touchdown interception ratio is 1.5. Average yard per attempt is 6.7. Through the same 50-game career start, there's another quarterback that had 11,800 yards. Pass touchdown interception ratio was 1.4, threw for 74 and 53. And his average yard per attempt was 7.5. Reid, do you want to take a stab in the dark at whom I'm comparing Trevor Lawrence to?
There's no way it's Gardner Minshew, is it?
No. It is also one-time great quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Blake Bortles. So going back to the statement that you made, that when quarterbacks are drafted so high, it almost gives them an inflated value almost, because a team spent such a high draft capital on a specific position,
right,
that they're kind of getting a pass. Yes, he's going to end up getting paid by the Jags. I get that. He signed the extension, blah, 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 blah. But if the Jags were so easy to pivot away from Bortles, which in my opinion are maybe not head and shoulders above Trevor Lawrence's stats, but it's definitely comparable. In that same draft, you saw the likes of Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, and then later on Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, who haven't seen the field, and Trey Lance doesn't know how to keep the ball off of the field. But even when you compare it to the three, Justin Fields, I'll throw Zach Wilson in there, and then Mac Jones, I mean, their stats aren't totally off base. I mean, yeah, Trevor Lawrence is going to have vastly higher passing yards than Justin Fields because Justin Fields is more of a mobile quarterback. You see that clearly because Justin Fields has almost 1,500 yards more rushing than Trevor Lawrence does. But the other quarterback at the tail end of that conversation is Mac Jones. I mean, through 42 games, he's thrown 8,900 yards. He's rushed for 300. I mean, he's not the most mobile quarterback. He can hit the gritty when he wants to, which is nice. But this is leading me into the conversation that at some point this season, not because of injury, Mac Jones will take over for quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars due to sub-average play from Trevor Lawrence.
Damn. Mac Jones taking the starting spot from Trevor Lawrence. That's a bold prediction.
Hey, this is the Glaunch show.
That's right.
We gotta go bold.
We Glaunch. I actually like that a lot. I do like that a lot. I'm of the belief. I want the Jaguars to have a good season. I like it when the Jaguars are good for some reason. I like Dougie P, their coach Doug Peterson, and I like Trevor Lawrence. Like I wanted Trevor Lawrence to hit those expectations, just because as much as I hated Clemson, I did enjoy watching Trevor Lawrence play for them, and I was happy to see him go to the league. And I feel like he just wound up in the shittiest of situations, and that's a conversation that we can have when we get to talking about the NFC South and Bryce Young and the Panthers and quarterbacks being drafted into these terrible situations. Trevor Lawrence in particular, with a quarterback like Urban Meyer, who was wildly abusive and arrogant and just a destroyer of worlds, did not make it even halfway through the season as their head coach. I think he's just been dealt a bad hand. He can still be a great quarterback at some point, but you're right. The expectations are just this overvaluing that kills these guys. Like Ryan Tannehill had 7 years in Miami. Going back to him, he had 7 years in Miami, but he wasn't like a top 5 pick that year, right? He was drafted 8th overall, so still in the top 10, but he wasn't being looked at as Andrew Luck or Robert Griffin III. This was a dude who was coming off of being a receiver turned into a quarterback, and because he was like on what we call the Andy Dalton line, of where you can't tell if he's good or not. like Kirk Cousins took over that for a little while and then got above it, and it became the Ryan Tannehill line officially, where you couldn't tell if he was good, so you had to pay him. His 4th year, his contract year, he threw for like his most yards, 4,214, and then like 24 touchdowns, 11 interceptions or something. And then, got paid, fell apart after that. Boom, boom, injury, went to Tennessee and started playing out of his mind. That could happen for Trevor Lawrence, where it's just needs a change of scenery, needs a different situation. And maybe this is the season that starts to launch that, but he did just get his extension. So like, could you see them benching him even though they just paid the dude that amount of money?
I mean, he's on the books, I think, until like 2030?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure like he got paid. He got a huge extension. I think there's a potential out, I think in like after the 28 season, I think, if I looked at that contract the right way earlier. But I could see them sitting him as a way to light a fire under his ass. I think because he's been the de facto untouchable number 1 quarterback there in Jacksonville for as long as he's been there, having somebody behind him as a Mac Jones, even though Mac Jones isn't anything special either, it should do enough to try to help him along a little bit. And hey, sometimes you need to have a breakdown to be able to figure it out.
It's true. It's very, very true. And just getting Mac Jones like that's a dude who was a Pro Bowler. He did make a Pro Bowl. I mean, granted, Tyler Huntley made the Pro Bowl too. He's 3rd string quarterback for the Browns now, but it's what happens. That's somebody that you can get in there to light under their ass. That's a good bold prediction.
And you brought up Tyler Huntley really quick. Can we pour one out for him really quick?
Yeah.
Can we take a pause? Can we pour one out for Tyler Huntley?
Pour one out for Tyler Huntley.
Unfortunately got cut by the Browns, leaving them with 3. Who is it? It's Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Jameis, and Crab Legs, and then Hansy.
Yeah. Crab legs, Hansy, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. It's just somehow that poor dude. He must be weird. There's got to be something to him if he's fitting into that quarterback room of Deshaun and Jameis.
Oh, with Dorian Thompson-Robinson?
Yeah.
I mean, the name alone is a mouthful.
Yeah. He probably, I could see him wearing like Willy Wonka suits. Allegedly. I don't know anything about him.
Jameis likes mouthful crab legs. Deshaun likes giving mouthfuls. Who knows?
Pause. Now go.
But I'm excited to hear what your second bold prediction is going to be.
That was I blew my load on that.
Pause. Now go.
I like that it's just both going. No, my second was the draft prediction. And somehow I just like segued into a 2025 draft prediction.
Well, like my next bold prediction has like they're all interconnected bold predictions. So it's like one massive.
They all tied. I can give another one that kind of, I guess it leads it. It will segue a little bit. The Houston Texans, Scott. They're not going to make the playoffs this year.
Ooh, wow! I think you really rely on an AR-15 over there.
I think they are just missing it by a little bit. They're just like Maxwell Smart, miss it by that much. And what's a team that I like to compare them to? I wanted to compare them earlier to the Oklahoma City Thunder, but this young, scrappy team that's kind of like they're all young, really trying to figure it out, get it all together. Might have like a some type of veteran name in there to help them out, and that be Stephon Diggs. But I'm actually going to make that more of the I'm going to make them more of the Minnesota Timberwolves or Memphis Grizzlies of sort, where there's some young star power there. There's huge potential with the team, but they're trying to get it together. They're merging in some like older veteran pieces to try and make this happen or generate a championship run, but they got to take their lumps. They got to get humbled. This is a sophomore year for not only CJ Stroud, but head coach DeMeco Ryans and so many of their other pieces on this team. Will Anderson, of course. I think they're going to take a lump this year. They're going to hit a bit of a sophomore slump. They'll still finish with like 9 to 10 wins, but they're still going to miss the playoffs. Just something to light them up. That Oklahoma City Thunder team comparison could look more that way towards Indianapolis, but I'm not going to give anything away.
I love it. I don't want to give away the big piece to this bold prediction, so I will just say the Dallas Cowboys will be missing the playoffs, and they will be drafting Shedeur Sanders at quarterback.
No.
Yep, it's gonna happen. Look, Dax. Look, they just re-signed CeeDee Lamb. He got his bag. I believe Micah Parsons is also kind of on that fringe to try to get a payday. Dak is due up to get a payday, but if you're Jerry Jones, you're going to want to make sure to pay your defensive stud as much as you can because it's really hard to find playmakers like that on the defensive side of the ball. And Jerry's looking for a splash. He's looking for something that's going to sell tickets. Dak hasn't been able to get it done. And I will even go further of saying that Dak Prescott is going to stay in the NFC East.
Ooh.
Next year.
I bet I know where.
Take a stab at it.
It's probably the team I thought Shedeur Sanders was going to.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Man, that would be such a Jerry Jones pick. Shedeur Sanders. His dumbass would probably try to get him to wear like number 21 at quarterback just to follow some traditions.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, and it's not even just on the play of Dak, but, their running back room is crickets. Quiet. I mean, they got Zeke back cool.
Yeah.
This team would have been, they just got Dalvin. They just signed Dalvin to a little bit of a contract. So this team would have been amazing like 10 years ago.
It is the most mid committee I've ever seen.
I saw a meme earlier. I meant to send it to you and Zoo, but it was a little short video clip of when the like Jerry Rice, Dan Marino, and Emmitt Smith were dressed up in their jerseys, and it was like when Dalvin Cook comes to Dallas and meets up with Zeke and Dak. But other than that, I mean, the NFC's it's not getting any easier, and Dak isn't as mobile as he hoped he once was. And it's just they're gonna miss the playoffs, and I could even be as bold to say that Mike McCarthy won't even be there after Halloween.
Ooh, okay. Would you want to call him the first coach fired?
No, I'm reserving that specifically for Dennis Allen.
I damn too.
Fuck that guy. Talk about just throwing the players under the bus at all times. You know that he lost that locker room, especially last year when they got Jamal Williams that touchdown later on in the season, and then came out and started talking illy about them not going into victory formation. And I don't know. It's just you listen to his press conferences, and he just seems like the biggest douche. Like, he doesn't care about the players. He doesn't care about what's going on. He loves Taysom Hill, though. I will say that.
Yeah.
Him some Taysom. I'm pretty sure if he could, he'd throw him on defense at some point too.
You know what Dennis Allen is? To me, he is exactly what we talked about with these like college dynasty coaches getting teams and then falling apart. We talked about this on Shame Day, where they get a team and they just kind of inherit it. And so they inherited a winning culture and a winning team for a couple of years, and then it starts to fall apart when it really becomes their team and it really becomes their blueprint. Then like Sean Payton, like he was Sean Payton's guy. He inherited Sean Payton's team. He inherited Sean Payton's culture. And the further along he gets, the further away from the playoffs that team gets, and the further away they get. Like he ran off Jameis Winston. Like, what are you gonna like? Jameis was a culture guy in that locker room. You could have kept. He stayed there to be a backup when he could have been going to compete somewhere else. Like, and you lost that dude. Yeah, it's gonna fall apart this year. Bad.
Now, and that's actually a really good comp, because the comp that I always gave him is him and Taysom remind me of that father-son coach-player duo. Like, it's all your fault, not my little boy Taysom. Yeah. It could never be his fault. It's your fault that you're not winning.
Yep. My final bold prediction, as we segue into AFC picks here. Jim Harbaugh left Michigan, kind of like how Donald Trump is trying to run for president to escape charges and suspensions and stuff and all these penalties. Jim Harbaugh got away from Michigan and college football to the safety of the NFL and got to the Chargers head coaching job. And I think that he will have a tenure there. Like, this isn't going to be like a one and done season. It's way too much investment and money. But I think that Jim Harbaugh's Chargers in this first year are going to be competing for the number 1 overall pick.
Ooh.
I think Jim Harbaugh in his first season with LA, it's going to be a little bit of a transition.
Rough.
It's going to be maybe like a 4-win season. I hate the talent level on that team. I don't like the reliance on Lad McConkey, who's a good lad. He's a good lad. Him and Quentin Johnson as your top 2 receivers in year 1 of this regime. Don't like it. Don't like the running back situation where I think it's J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards.
Yeah.
Going for running back there when we're talking about that committee. O-line's decent. And then the defense, it just feels like it's in this weird place where it doesn't know if it wants to be a rebuild or compete right now. But they also spent so much money and are locked in on so much that they have to kind of keep up with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and all these dudes on that defense. Derwin James will be a guiding light.
Yeah, I mean, you got Asante Samuel Jr., who's kind of a shining light, young cornerback there. You know what and it wasn't until you said J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. They give me watered down West Coast Baltimore Ravens vibes.
Yes.
That's what they give me. And you're right, that division is so competitive from top to bottom. It's gonna be difficult to be successful, especially in the first year, and in all but a rebuild mode. I don't know if they might try to deal Justin Herbert and try to get some pieces. Who knows? But I could definitely see them in that top 3 to 5 range.
I could see that, and I just hate the idea of trading Justin Herbert. They do have
yeah.
Taylor Heineke though, so they could be they might have the future right there.
Oh yeah, 5 years, $80 million. He ain't going nowhere.
My apologies to Josh Palmer. That dude was a stud for me in fantasy last year. Not so much DJ Chark. God. Oh my God.
Talk about a player that just fizzled out.
Denzel Perryman is still there.
Are you looking at the Chargers roster?
I am. Bud Dupree.
He's still playing?
He's their starting outside linebacker.
Oh my God.
Oh, never mind. He's sitting behind Mac or Bosa.
Actually, I will do another shout out really quick to 40-year-old. That's right, 40-year-old tight end Mercedes Lewis, who has been playing in the NFL since I was a sophomore in high school.
There's no way.
Congratulations. He's
not playing for somebody this year, is he?
He sure is.
Who?
He's playing for the he signed. Didn't he resign with? He's playing with the Bears.
Oh my God. He'll play till the end of time. I'm shocked he's not with the Jets.
I'm gonna say too that he was in that 2006 draft, and if you want some notable names that were part of that 2006 NFL draft, Vince Young, Vernon Davis, Jay Cutler, like these players, like how is he still going?
He must hate his family. I'm just going to say it. Just going to throw that out there. He does not want to be around them.
Devin Hester had his whole career and got inducted into the Hall of Fame before he's even out.